I think everybody, can you hear me over there? I think everybody here knows that if it wasn't for Bob Aikens, there would have never been a larva Croche. But I wonder how many people here know that if it wasn't for Ann Aikens, there would have never been a larva Croche.
I do.
And it was your tenacity in pursuing Bud Offield that resulted in him selling Bob this property in 1968. You weren't going to let Bob blow it, and you didn't. I recall so well the first time that I saw this beautiful land. And I drove north with you and Bob in February of 1969. We left the Kimberly Scott offices in Bloomfield Hills one afternoon, and you waited until we crossed the Zilwaukee Bridge to break out the cocktails and hors d'oeuvres.
Nice.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I'll never forget.
Every time. Every time.
We had dinner that night at Chimney Corners, and we stayed at Perry Davis in Petoskey. The following morning, after breakfast, we parked our cars along the road, which was then M131, and met up with Bob Swanson. We located the one trail that ran through this property. It ran from east to west. It was a logging trail during the lumber days, for moving logs out to Lake Michigan onto the sawmills in Harbor Springs. Prior to that, it was a portage trail for Native Americans navigating from Lake Huron down to Lake Michigan through the inland waterway. And word has it that great Jesuit explorer, Pere Marquette, traversed this trail in the 1600s, 300 years before us. As we were tromping through the snow along this trail, the two Bobs explained to me that there was going to be a main road winding through the center of the property like a spine. And off that spine, there were going to be a number of arms, or cul-de-sacs, the location of which was dictated by the ridge lines that ran through the property. And off these arms were going to be building sites. Bob Swanson conceived the idea of the building circle, which was very unique and novel in land planning. The best building sites were identified, giving consideration to the trees, the topography, and the relationship of one site to another. Lot lines were drawn around those circles. The circles were drawn, and then lot lines were drawn around those circles for planning purposes, but the lines were not to be distinguishable. Bob Swanson did an absolutely incredible, magnificent, super job of land planning and site layout. He told me that all the cottages were going to be original design, and through the use of natural materials, they were going to relate to the setting in which they were to be built. The cottages were going to blend with nature. He also told me that one of the most important architectural effects was that all the slope roofs in Larva Croche were going to be wood shake and wood shingle. And this was going to give the community a certain warmth, high quality, and uniformity throughout. And Bob was right then, and it worked. We eventually chopped towards the western edge of the trail. And I recall standing on the dune, looking out from the pines on the Little Traverse Bay for the first time. And what a thrill that was. It was the most beautiful sight I've ever seen in my life. And that's still true today, 48 years later. Every time I walk to the beach, and look out over the beach house to the bay, I'm in awe of how beautiful it is and how lucky we are to be here.
Yeah. Bill, tell him that I knocked down the sand dunes so we could do this.
You were very involved in moving that beach around.
Yay.
And you and Bob emphasized to me that day that Larver Croche was going to be a family-oriented community with lots of activities for children. And of all the successes that we've had at Larver Croche, this is the one that means the most to me and that I'm proudest of. When it comes to having a place for families to gather, a place for children, and a place for grandchildren, there is nothing else quite like it. Any place, nothing else quite like it, any place, anywhere. I am forever grateful to Bob and Ann Aikens, to Bob Leland, and Bill Aikens, for they were all stakeholders and decision makers back then when they gave me the opportunity to help them realize their vision and dreams for Larver Croche. I thank Bob and Ann Aikens for Larver Croche. My family thanks Bob and Ann Aikens for Larver Croche. All my children and all my grandchildren thanks Ann and Bob Aikens for Larver Croche. And I know that all the members of Larver Croche are grateful to Ann and Bob Aikens for Larver Croche.
Here, here.
Here, here.
The Aikens family thanks Bill Petzold and his family for everything they did to carry out the vision that was started. And it's not often that you get a group of people, contentious monsters that we were, that really completely agree in such a way. And Bill and his family have been so wonderful in moving forward with it, and we're so proud of you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Here, here.
Here, here.
I also know that all the members of Larver Croche, past and current, are grateful. And I also know that all future members of Larver Croche, even those yet unborn, are all someday, at some point in time, they're all going to stop by this fountain
Hey, who was that?
for a refreshing drink of water, most likely after a strenuous game of tennis. And they're going to see this plaque which reads, Aikens Fountain, dedicated with gratitude to Bob and Ann Aikens, founders of Larver Croche, for their vision, energy, and leadership. They're going to reflect on that for a moment, and then they too are going to thank Ann and Bob for Larver Croche. This fountain is truly a very beautiful, appropriate, and lasting tribute to Bob and Ann Aikens.
Cheers.
Great job.
Great job, Bill.
Great
Good
job.
job.
Without Ann and Bob Aikens, Larver Croche, as we know it today, would not exist. Bob Aikens hired Bob Swanson to do the layout of Larver Croche. He made a business arrangement with Bill Petzold to sell plotted lots and to get Larver Croche managed as a fine, fun family community built in a natural environment, which at the time was a new concept. How lucky for all of us to have Bob and Ann bring Larver Croche to successful finish. And how lucky for all of us to be able to call Larver Croche our very special place. Thank you, Bob and Ann.
Ann, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Oh, it'd take an hour.
We've only got 30 minutes.
I will say one thing, however. Bob and I came up to Mononico, as a lot of you probably know, after both of our fathers had died that year. And, oh, okay. After both of our dads had passed away and we were in deep despair, so we came up to Mononico and we used to hike down here with our 4 children and climb up on top of that crazy sand dune. And we said, we're going to have a house up here. So we, in fact, decided that we were going to have a house up here. And we figured out how we could annex it into Mononico, and really we were all set to go. So we found out who owned it was a man by the name of Bud Allfield, as you said. And we spent the next 2 years tracking him down, talking to him. No, I wasn't going to sell it. No, I wasn't going to sell it. Just sell us the sand dune, we said. No, I wasn't going to do that. He was going to develop it himself. He had 3 houses on Harbor Point. And this was their playground. And so they were not all necessarily even knowing that Bud was thinking of selling it. So one day after Bob would meet with Bud, and they would have 3 martini lunches in Chicago. And Bud would always say, well, no, he wasn't going to do it. So this one day I said, because we had this vision that we wanted this in the heart of the woods for our family. And this is all our vision was at that point. So anyhow, long story short, Bob met with Bud that day in Chicago after I called Bud's office thinking because Bob wouldn't talk to him. So I called his office thinking I'm going to get the secretary and say, would you mind seeing if Bud might see us? Even though Bob had said, absolutely not, I'm not going to do it. So, but I didn't get the secretary, I got Bud. And I'm saying, oh my God, what am I saying to this man? So I said, hi Bud, this is Ann. And he said, oh good. And so I said, you would never be able to talk to Bob, would you, about the property, because we'd really love to build a house up there. And he said, well, as a matter of fact, I would. He said, will you have him meet me at the Harvard Club in Chicago at noon? Well, Bob was on his way to a legal convention and just happened to be stopping by Brooks Brothers on his way there. So I said, he said, at 12 o'clock, I said, he'll be there. Now I'm thinking, how am I going to get Bob to tell him that he's got a meeting with Bud Allfield at noon? Well, I called Brooks Brothers and they did announce it all over Brooks Brothers, and he picks up the phone. He says, what's the matter? I said, you've got an appointment with Bud. He says, I do. And I said, well, yeah, you kind of do. He said, I'm not going to go. I said, yes, you are. I said, I told him you were coming. But interestingly, Bud said, you can't come in, it's for men only. So I said, okay. So that night he comes home, and he went to the convention, saw Bud. He said, you're going to be pretty surprised. And I said, how'd it go? And he said, well, you're going to be pretty amazed, or surprised, or shocked, or whatever. He said, you own 110 acres on Little Traverse Bay. I was. So he said, you own 110 acres. How did you do that? He said, I don't know, but we came to an agreement, and Bob said, how much do you want? And Bob said, I don't know. And Bob said, have it surveyed and have it priced out, and I'll pay whatever you want. They signed the napkin, as Bill said. I wish we could find that napkin. And that was it. So then he set out with his vision, only now it wasn't just the top of the sand dune, it was the whole doggone shooting match. And his vision was, he would have been so proud last night. He loved to dance. Kids, he wanted it. It was designed totally for families. And I think he did a great job. And then he turned it over to Bill. Anyhow, Great. That's the story.
And we love it. Is there anybody else that would like to speak before we ever finally close? No?
I'll say one thing.
Okay.
I think my dad would be so proud that what's occurring now in my Croche, this transition from the generations that have led here for many years to all these new young people.
Louder.
This new rebirth, in a way, with all these new families and young people, to see that it's going to be in great hands, you know, for many years to come, for many generations. I think he would be just so ecstatic. So, just the new generations.
Yeah. And to Ann and Bob Aikens, this is a perfect fountain.
Beautiful.
It is.
And thank you so much. Oh, everybody, thank you for the fountain. It's absolutely gorgeous. And but it's really an honor for Bob. It was his vision and his leadership. I only pushed him a little bit. Just a little bit. You know, women always have to do
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Should I cut it now?